Hello, everyone. Are you out there? We had a little snagola. Let's see. I'll come closer. That make you look funny? Let's go over here a little bit. There you go. Ah, you're there. Yeah, it's Ron and the missus today.
Hi,
How
Amy.
you doing? You hear us okay? I want to make sure that's working. Hello. Sorry, we're just running a little bit late. The missus just got back. Yeah, she just got back from a retreat. I don't know what it is, a hand sewing retreat.
It's called Needle and Knots. So
Needle and Knots.
All handwork.
Needle and Knots. Looking and sounding good. All right. Well, it's the women in the life. They always seem to make me look better than I really am. They distract you. Distract you. All right, we'll just give it a minute here to get a few more people on, and then we'll get going. Yeah, see there, hi, Cherie Tanner.
I know. That's
Amy. Yeah, you remember Amy.
I know Amy. There's a few names on there.
Louisiana. We got Rachel from Louisiana.
Woohoo!
Wow. I think our time zone sort of knocked out the folks from Alaska and other places. It's a little too late for them, I think.
No, it's not that way.
Or too early.
It's, I don't know.
All right, let's see here. Just for kickers. While we're waiting here, just for people to get on. Clock. World clock. I'm going to add Alaska.
Alaska. Anchorage.
Oh, was it there?
No. I didn't see it, but I don't know.
Anchorage is 5:40 p.m. Oh, that's not bad.
Oh, it's the East Coast goofs.
Don't call them goofs.
You're the goof.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start with a question. What do we got?
We've got one from Irene. It says, has the search filter changed when searching from a person page by clicking on the FamilySearch icon?
Well, this was a while back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a while back. Of course, it changed when we went to the new V8, but it should be working better because we adjusted some things on there. So, yeah, it's a little bit different, but it should still be able to find some things.
It says when searching for a birth record, they would not put in the marriage or death info for the best results. Was I wrong, or has that changed? So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to put the birth. Yeah, you don't want the birth info in there necessarily. You have to filter it some, right? It's just a generic search, so birth info won't be on the marriage records usually.
Okay. This one says, I received an email about my ancestor calendar, but where do I find it on a family tree? That's from Debbie.
Yeah, this was the ancestor calendar is a Facebook thing, and you should have received an email, and in the email has all of the stuff, and then you can import it into your Facebook so that it will remind you from Facebook. But there isn't a place you go, I don't believe. Maybe one of you, someone else has gotten one of those, your ancestors' calendar. It has their like birth dates and their death dates. I got one too,
but I didn't pay much attention to it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let me just look real quick and see if I can find one. I think it's, I think it was in the actual calendar, but I may be wrong. Oops, it'd be really good if I could spell calendar. There we go.
Ron was a really good grandpa yesterday. He took care of one of our grandsons all day long.
Yeah.
Little 3-year-old. And he did really, really well.
Yeah.
Publicly thank him for that.
Yeah, I didn't even lose my cool once. So
yeah, Grandma was a little worried leaving him alone with the grandchildren.
Yeah, that wasn't the youngest, but it was the youngest of the set.
Youngest of the three, the trio.
All right.
Next question.
Let's see. Wait. Let's see what I hear. All right, Clinton, Utah. Jill, you're a little quiet. Can you turn up the volume? My volume is all the way up. I don't know if there's a volume for recording. Let's see if I can see anything. I think I just have to pipe up, which is not usually a problem for me. Maryland must be snowing there.
Yeah, I wish we had a little bit. Hi, Larry.
Nobody come. Southern California, yeah, Ordinance is ready. Linda Cara. Notice that Ordinance Ready is now turned on FamilySearch.org. Also is on the mobile app. So yeah, it's turned on. It was funny. They were telling me the other day that we turned this on in the mobile app, and someone last Saturday, there was about 500 or 600 people that pushed the button right at exactly the same time. And it was on the mobile app, so we knew their geolocation stuff. And so we found a bug when they did that, and we were chewing up some resources that we shouldn't have. So appreciate that. We found the bug and fixed it before we shipped on Wednesday. Anyway, we were curious about these folks, and we went and looked, and they were all in the same building in Texas. So we figured it was like a state conference, evening session or something, and somebody talked about Ordinance Ready, and everybody pulled out their phone and pushed their button at about the same time, exactly the same time. So it was quite the little test on our end. It all worked. Everybody got their stuff. It just, we were burning up some resources we shouldn't have. Some of us were dying there, had to log out and log back in, huh? All right, Utah, Roberta from Florida, welcome. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Linda posted on the comments. You can go to www.familysearch.org/campaign/calendar. And then you, was there more?
I don't know. Is there? It looks like there might be more on the.
Yeah, she posted it. Let's see what it sends us to. I'm going to open it up. Yeah, it has then. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sign in. So, yeah, follow the link that Linda put up. Thank you, Linda. It was very nice of you to do that. Why doesn't the ordinance page in Family Tree print in color?
I didn't know.
I don't know. I didn't know it didn't either. I don't know if we ever printed in color. Of course, I guess it's hard to figure out whether or not you printed something or didn't print something. Let me go look real quick. Let me go to my thing here. I'm going to say print. Yeah, it doesn't print color. Oh, it's got little yellow boxes.
Barely distinguishable.
Okay, write that one down.
I did color print.
I don't know. I mean, most people probably may not have color, but anyway.
It doesn't work in.
Just say ordinance page. Why doesn't it print in color? So that they can see whether it's printed, reserved, whatever. Different choices.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty. Here's a question from Grandma 39. Is there a way to rearrange the stories written in memories?
No, there isn't. Right now, there isn't a way to do that. They're working on a new feature. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head when that's going to go out. They're working on a new feature that will, a new feature that will allow you to rearrange memories inside of an album. And then we're hoping to, in the future, be able to, with one button, click and sort by, date. Either from earliest to latest or latest to earliest. That's 99% of the time people want to sort it by date.
Yeah, I can see that.
So we're working on that. I don't know when that's going to be done because they're having to. If you know, you probably don't notice, but we released our new portrait tool, and the portrait tool now you only get one portrait per person in the tree. So there's no more preferred portraits, but it's much better in the sense of how you pick a portrait. Portraits were never supposed to be part of tagging.
Yeah.
It was done that way, but it was never really meant to be that way. So now you take a memory and you have a square on the screen or oval, and you can move the picture around to get it lined up like exactly what you want, and say make a portrait. And there's only one on each person, so you can, if you don't like the one that's on there, you make a different one, and it'll replace the one that's on there, or you can remove the portrait. So that just shipped 2 as well. out there. So just be aware that that's new.
Okay,
what's your
here
next one?
is one from Brian Dimter. I think that's how it says. I'm sorry if I
That's right,
mispronounced it.
Brian's fine enough. Just first name's good enough.
Oh, okay. What are the differences among the methods of starting on Family Search Tree from LDS.org, the family booklet, quick start from tools, and just manually searching and adding relatives to the tree? And are the family circles almost ready? I'm really excited for that.
Okay, start over. What's
It
the
wants
difference
to know
between
what the difference between the math methods starting on the family tree thing between LDS.org, family booklet, and quick start, or
Okay.
just manually searching.
Okay. You can't start your tree on LDS.org, so that one's out of the picture. You click it, and it'll just send you over to Family Search. The quick start is just a little helper. It doesn't search for anything for you. It just walks you through adding your father and your mother, and then your father's parents, and then your mother's parents, and then your great-grandparents, and so forth. That's all it's doing, is just walking you through, asking you for a name and a birth and a death, things like that. The other method is just entering it into your landscape view. So entering it into your landscape view. So there's no difference other than the look. You know, some people, they look at the landscape view. That's sort of the default view, and they kind of don't know where to get going, and so they start the little help starting me, and then that one just walks you through. Add your dad, add your mom, add your grandfather and grandmother, add your grandmother and grandfather on your mom's side. Just walks you through so that you're focusing on one person at a time. But none of them do anything special. The booklet, you're entering things from your booklet theoretically on your paper, and you're typing them in. It tries to look like the booklet. And actually, there's a little hiccup in the booklet that sometimes catch people. You can enter stuff. At the time, we were trying to experiment to see if the booklet was an actual source, if there was a way for us to save it as a source. So the booklet, when you enter it in, nothing actually goes in the tree. So you enter it all in the way you want, or at least as much as you want, and then you have to say done or finished or whatever. You can always go back and add more through the booklet. But if you put done, then that's when it copies all the stuff you typed in on the booklet and puts it into the tree. So that's been a little bit of confusion that's been out there. To be honest with you, most people just enter it right in landscape view because it's gotten simpler enough now from the way it was earlier that people just are comfortable just typing in their father and the mother right there on the tree. So is support like other facts where someone else can replace the portrait? Yes. There's only one of them, and it's open edit. So and your choices are not really readjusted. It's either remove it or replace it. That's your two choices now. We made it very simple. There was a lot of confusion going around about it, and 99.99 whatever had only one portrait anyway. So
Larry, it looks like it's a question. Doesn't need to be.
Does what need to be?
I don't know. Did she put something else in?
I need to know what your question's about, Larry. You said, does it need to be?
Calendar is on.
I don't know what you were talking about. You'll have to give me a bigger question there, Larry. What is it you want to know? Does what need to be?
Okay, here's one I like. This is cool. This came from Ruth. What is one thing you wish everyone understood about Family Search's family tree?
That it's a shared tree, that everybody's working in the same tree. And we don't do a very good job teaching people that. When we first shipped, for those of us who've been around since the beginning of Family Tree, there was during that trial period before we released it to everybody, we actually had a pop-up window. It was the very first time you went to the tree, it would pop up and say, hey, just a little bit about Family Tree. We're all using the same tree. When you change stuff, it changes it for everybody else, for the dead. And that screen, for some reason, disappeared over the following year or two, and we didn't ever get it back on. And so I just wish people knew that better, because then they realize they're in a collaborative environment, and they need to realize that they're interacting with other people, and that's just the nature of Family Tree. And it's not, the collaborative tree is not going to change. It's going to be that way. I could see other features coming in the future that may help people. And we're also looking at a homepage for Family Tree where we give an introductory thing again. We're going to try to maybe do that. We've been talking about it. We'll see. That and people it seems like most people don't understand relationships and how to do them, because that seems to be a pretty high call volume that comes into support.
That's my problem. All right, here is a question from Rachel. Any tips to teach people on linking the living to the dead in FamilySearch.org?
The tip.
Any tips?
Take your living and type in somebody who's dead as their father or mother. I don't know. There's no special tips. We are working on a hinting for living. Remember, most of the records that we have, if we're talking the United States and lots other than obituaries, we really don't have very much living, because it's not legal to show that stuff in most places. There are some states that do share living birth certificates and things like that. Texas, California are a couple that their birth certificates are public record, and anybody can see any of the birth certificates from those two states. But mostly people rely on the censuses and so forth. And censuses, the government says you only can use 72 years out. So the next census isn't going to be 2022 will probably be the next census, and that'll be a 1950 census. So, several of us, my age, that won't be in the census, but our parents will be in the census, that census. Mm-hmm. But our parents could have been in the 1940 census because, as little babies, 3-year-olds or something. So the best thing is, I think the easiest way to get from living to dead is talk to some people. Talk to your parents or your grandparents and say, what was your parents' name and so forth. I think that's the easiest. And then once you get a name and a birth date and a death date out of your relatives who may have known those people, that's probably the best way, quickest way to get into the dead. And once you're in the dead, then you got a name and a birth and a death. Now we're going to start looking through all of our 5.5 billion records to see if we can find a match for those deceased people. So that's usually the quickest. Make a phone call and ask some questions of your relatives.
There you go. This is from Barbara. She says, I recently found a 1-year-old child in the 1870 census. He's not listed in the 1880 census and had not been added to Family Tree. His ordinances became available. Besides sealing him to his parents, what other ordinances do we need to do? There was a child,
a 1-year-old child
in the 1870 census.
Uh-huh.
Then he was gone in the 1880.
Yeah, it's probably died.
So he wasn't in Family Tree, so they added him, and his ordinances became available. Besides sealing him to parents, what do they do with the other ordinances?
There is no need. Though anybody who died under the age of 8 does not need B, C, I, and E. They do not need baptism, confirmation, initiatories, or endowment.
Well, we don't know.
They only need the sealing to parent.
Because, depending on how old he was in this 18, and
Yeah, well, you could keep looking. There's nothing you need to do for a 1-year-old. If you find evidence later that he got to 8 years old before he died, then you need all the ordinances. But I think you made a reasonable assumption that he's 1 year old and he's not showing up, and 10 years later he's probably deceased. What you don't know is whether he was 8, 9, or 10 when he died. Yeah. So I wouldn't do anything until you find evidence that he died after 8 or older. Okay, so Steve asked, could you explain what a JED and then COM, it's all one word, Steve, JEDCOM source is and where it comes from? Well, there is no JEDCOM sources right now, but you might be reading the phrase brought in from JEDCOM, something like that. And what that is, JEDCOM is just a file that allows you to transfer data from one computer to another. That's sort of a standard that the church actually built way back in PATH days in the 1980s. And one of the first computer software packages that did genealogy. And we developed a file transfer format we called JEDCOM. I can't even remember what it stands for. I should really know that, but I don't know.
Genealogical something.
Genealogical communication or something, I think. That was the name of the file of the standard that says this is how you transfer data. And then and all of the record managers and most online systems understand JEDCOM files. There are some that have quit allowing you to upload JEDCOM files. And if you're seeing that in the comments on some person in the tree, it means that they've gone through the process which we provide that allows a person to upload their JEDCOM into genealogies and then import that JEDCOM into family tree. When they import from JEDCOM into family tree, we look for duplicates. We tell people these are duplicates. And if they say yes, then they're a duplicate, then we don't create a person. We just link that person in. And so that's what a JEDCOM for. If you have Ancestral Quest or Roots Magic or Legacy or any of these record managers, they all can read or export JEDCOM files. So that's what the JEDCOM is. And so the JEDCOM source is just a little note we put in to tell people that this was brought in from genealogies. Printing in color. Oh, that's what Larry was talking about. I don't know why. I thought it did, so I'm surprised it didn't. Maybe with the switch over to the new, we missed that part. Yes, you could have lived to, that's right, Susan, could have lived to 8, so that's what you really need to find is a death certificate. Oh, there it is. Yeah, genealogical data communication. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
This is from Jane. It says, how do I delete duplicate sources showing that are to be added? I only need the source one time.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but if you look at the actual source, this is a FamilySearch source, which we're hinting, so it probably will be. If you look at actually open the two sources and you look at them, they actually have different URLs. And that's why we think they're different sources. Because we've had some bugs recently, and we're gonna have to go rebuild a new backend system. That reminds me, I gotta write down, get going on backend source synchronization. So we have a synchronization between hinting and family tree, so that hinting knows that we've attached a source, and we tell hinting, and then they use that data to not rehint. And we've found a couple of bugs in there where we could miss some of them, so that we would rehint the exact same URL. But if it's different URLs, it may be still the same picture and the same extraction, but they were extracted separately, and the pictures are actually two different pictures. And that's simply because you go to one county and the counties shared copies of their records, and so you go to county 1, you film everything. You go to county 2, you film everything, and there's some overlap, especially if they're neighboring counties. You can end up with several records being duplicated on the two sides. But we're not taking time to go figure out, we don't have somebody sitting and looking at every image for every record we have to see if there's a duplicate. So it just creates a duplicate. So we recommend that you go ahead and attach it. We're reviewing how we can help users combine these together so that you don't have to see the same record more than once. You can say these two are really the same, and so on the person page it sort of collapse. We've had to delay that a little bit for some more higher priority work. But that team will be getting back on that. Cody joined. Hey, Cody. Are you going to have a feature to download a JEDCOM from FamilySearch instead of having to use a third-party program? Plenty of people ask for that, but there's lots of free versions that do it, so it's kind of hard to justify, spending some dollars and having people build it when there's already free versions that you can do that with. So probably not, since it's there and people have it and it's free. So yeah, well, JEDCOM, Lori says JEDCOM often adds many duplicates and the sources aren't always correct, which creates lots of problems. Well, yeah, a JEDCOM is just somebody's tree, and it may be sourced, it may not be sourced. The only way and it shouldn't make that many duplicates unless people refuse to click and say it's a duplicate. So we found some people that just don't want to bother with the screen, and so they just say nothing's a duplicate, and then they end up with generating all these duplicates, who makes all the rest of us have to work harder and not be happy. So I have a plan for that yet, but it's not far enough along to talk about. But my desire is to minimize those duplicates coming in there. We do track them. We know what percentage of the stuff coming in is our duplicates, and it's not super unreasonable, but it's higher than we'd like it to be. So we got some proposals we're thinking with.
Right.
All right, what's the next
This one you may have already taken care of. It says, is it possible to add a feature to the temple reservation list in the shared section that would make it able to share with family and friends? Right now, you have to unshare them with the temple and then go back and then share them with family and friends.
Yeah, probably not. You do have to unshare from the temple. And the reason for that, I mean, we could push a button that unshares it for you, I guess, but you have to unshare from the temple because it's on the temple list, and at any point, any moment in time, that reservation could be partially printed. And once it's printed, then you're done. I mean, there is no unsharing. So you really need to unshare it from the temple before you could share it with somebody else.
That was all I had right there. I'm looking.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll look on your thing there and see if somebody's got a question.
All right, Amy. I haven't looked at. She's saying, well, on the temple list, when you do Ordinance Ready, it says it's going to have. You can sort by expiration date. So over on the temple, you can go to All Reserved now, and there's a date reserved, date modify, and date expires. And yeah, so for that was out there to be able to support the automatic expiration of reservations, but the only ones that will expire or that have automatic expirations are ordinances you get from Ordinance Ready. So if you go to if you run Ordinance Ready, it looks at first your reservation list. Second, your shared with the temple ordinances. Third, it looks for related ancestors on the global temple list. If you get one of those and you accept it, it goes on your reservation list and it will have a 90-day expiration. So I'm surprised it doesn't have blanks when you say sort by expired, because they all should be just blank unless there's a actual expiration date. So I got to go talk about that. So put a note in there about the expiration column is not empty for 2-year reservations. So, or if you, and then the last category that's out there for Ordinance Ready is the oldest ancestor off the reservation list. So we crawl so much up your tree, so much down. If we can find any of those relatives, we give you those. If it's outside the scope that we go, then we'll give you one straight off the temple list. Any of them that we pull from the temple list to give to you will have an expiration date, and the expiration date will be 90 days. If it's a green temple or something off your reservation list or shared with the reservation list, you're not going to see an expiration date yet because we haven't implemented the 2-year auto release yet. That won't be coming till sometime first half of next year. So then all of a sudden you'll see all of them, everything will have an expiration date at that point in time. Okay. So that's why you don't see it, because you hadn't pulled from Ordinance Ready to see and gotten any 90-dayers yet. Let's see. Jill says, does the blog in the new update, however, I cannot get it to sort by expiration. Is this feature supposed to be working? Yeah. So there it is. There's the answer there, Amy. Does the blog on FamilySearch keep up with all the changes on Family Tree so we can keep up with changes and updates as they happen? Nope. Anything that's of significance, big significance, we blew it on the new client. The marketing wasn't ready for that when we did it. We hurried and got it up there. Ordinance Ready came out the same day we turned it on. But we don't put a blog out for every little thing. I mean, we ship 1,000 times a day, but most of those 1,000 times is you don't notice it. There's not anything particular that changes on the interface. When it's something significant, like ordinances ready, or the expiration dates or things like that, you'll see something like that in the blog. So we don't do it for everything. Just there's too many changes and people wouldn't be able to keep up with it anyway. So it only, yeah, Amy, so it only shows 90-day expirations for ordinance that you pull from Ordinance Ready. That's it for now. Eventually, they'll all have an expiration date. It shows all the 2-year reservations with just the reservation date. Yeah, because they don't have a date. They don't have an expiration date yet, so that's why. Could you explain again why Ordinance Ready is not just another green temple or hunt? Let me tell you why Ordinance Ready is not like the others that are out there. And you'll understand why I prefer Ordinance Ready. You know, part of it is because I worked on it, I guess, and defined it, but part of it is I think it helps in the goal. What we want, Ordinance Ready is the beginning of a set of changes that we're making to the whole temple reservation system and the temple inventory system. It's a 2-year job. This is the end of year 1, and we'll be working for it all through next year to finish it out. And the whole idea is we want everybody, every member, to have a personal experience taking a related name to the temple. And we want to make it easy to get a name to take to the temple. Now, because we have ownership of all the internal systems and we can understand best way to get things, we can get it done much quicker than some of these others. Not that they're not okay, but at the same time, we do something that others don't necessarily do. We don't give you any additional ordinances if you haven't finished the ones that are on your list. And the reason for that is we don't want people to just hoard a bunch of ordinances. We want people to take enough ordinances that they can get done in a reasonable time, 2 years or so. But we don't want to have a whole bunch more. We don't want super large lists. So we have a certain percentage of members that have gigantic lists, reservation lists, and it just locks it up. So we're trying to free up those ordinances so that everybody can have an opportunity to take a name to the temple for one of their relatives. That requires that the lists be constrained some. It requires that we provide a simple way for people to get one of these ordinances and not have to walk around the tree. And so, for example, let me give you an example of how we prevent people from overfilling their reservation list through Ordinances Ready. If you ask for baptism and confirmation, we give you 5 baptism and confirmations. You push the button, we give you 5, you accept it, those 5 are on your reservation list. Let's say you go do 2 of them, and then you push Ordinance Ready again for baptism and confirmation. Well, we're only going to give you 2 more because you already got 3 on your reservation list. So we don't let your reservation list grow beyond what you can get from Ordinance Ready. You can make it grow by manually going around and reserving things, of course, but eventually there'll be some cap on how many you can take because we don't want people to create these giant reservation lists because we want everybody to have an opportunity to go to the temple for the relatives. And with what we've done for Ordinances Ready, I haven't tried it, but the way it's been designed, you don't even have to have a tree in order to get an ordinance. You just have to be a member of the church and have an account on FamilySearch and push Ordinance Ready, and we'll give you an ordinance. We won't know if it's a relative of yours because we don't have a tree to sort of walk through and see if you're related to the person, but we will give you an ordinance every time you push the button. That's the goal, and it's not like the others because we're not just filling your list, and we're not walking the tree way back and way down and all over and pulling all of those ordinances away from all your relatives so that they don't have anything to do. The goal is to try to get everybody to do it. So that's what makes it a little different. We try to help these other companies and help them say we don't want them to give too many and stuff like that because we really want everybody to have a chance to do that. And some crawlers have in the past crawled all the way through and just people reserve thousands and thousands, which they're not going to be able to do anyway, but it prevents others from doing it. And there'll be future features. You just see an Ordinance Ready. That's just the beginning. So later on, you'll be able to walk around the tree and just reserve things, and they'll come off the reservation list onto your list, and so forth. And okay. So what I got on here?
I've got new questions too.
On one of my ancestors, when I check her temple ordinance, I get the message not available. The person ordinance status is not available. Please contact Family Search Support if you have a relative and need more information. Okay, so not available could mean a couple of things. The most common reason, what I would get is why sometimes it's light and sometimes it's not light. You know, it feels like it's dark. Doesn't it feel like it's dark in the camera?
It does.
Let me try to position it so you get a little more light. The number one reason why you get a not available on a person is because the sex of the person has changed. So when you change the sex, in the past, the early days when they were doing genealogy, they used to do ordinances for both sex for every person. So you'd have a person named John Smith, and they'll do a male endowment or male baptism and confirmation and a female one, just to make sure cover the bases.
Yeah.
Just to cover the bases. And then so there were two persons in the tree, one male and one female for the same named person. And so, most common thing is people just change the sex to the proper sex and then merge the two. Well, as soon as you change the sex, we check to see if there's any ordinances on that person that aren't for that sex. So let's say John, who was done as a male and a female, you change the female one to say male. Well, the second you do that, we detect that and say, oh, there are female ordinances on this person and it's a male. So then we mark not available. And then sometimes people do that and they're not paying attention to the ordinance tab, which is okay. Then they merge with somebody else they merge with the other male. And then they look at that, and then they look at it then, and it says, oh, not available. And they say, what happened? I busted it. So they try to unmerge and do all this other changes. And it is not going to change what happens because one of them is a not available, the other one's not. When you merge them, they're both not available because that female ordinance moves to the survivor, right? So all you need to do is contact support, just like it says, and tell them, hey, I changed the sex, and now it says not available. And they'll say, no problem, and they'll take care of it. And they'll resolve those female ordinances or male ordinances if you change it to a female. They'll resolve those ordinances, and then everything will be dandy. You'll see the ordinances that are valid, and if there are ordinances that aren't valid, then you'll have to go do them. So that's why it does it. Because and we have you contact them because somebody has to deal with these ordinances and either mark them invalid or do other things on there to make sure that we understand that the person that was this original person is not the right person. Okay.
Here's a question
Go
from Monique. It says, would it be possible to add a few more features to the new fan chart in the view from Family Tree where you can see up to 7 generations?
Oh, we did that.
Wow, there you go. Because she wrote pretty please, 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 please.
Yeah, she did that 15 days
on Halloween.
ago. On Halloween, just 15 days ago. And we released it. So you've seen the new fan chart. Hopefully she's happy because the fan chart's 7 generations. You can click it to see photos, stories, sources, birth countries.
Wow.
It's just a cool thing.
Then somebody wants to know if you can discuss the October 6th letter from the Priesthood and Family Department. It says, is this for small wards that don't have ward leads? I can see the advantage of having a Relief Society counselor work with the ward lead in Elders Quorum.
I'd have to go look at the October 6th letter.
Okay, so
Write a note for me to go find that October 6th letter.
Okay, here's the next one. It says, how do I remove a red exclamation mark for an infant that shows as being stillborn, but all the attached sources show the infant dying at about 1 year old? I click on the data problems box, but it won't let me correct the problem.
I'd have to know the PID because I think you probably can correct it. You're just probably not understanding where the correction needs to go. Did she put a PID in there?
No, she did not. That's Lori.
How do I remove a red exclamation mark for an infant that shows as being stillborn, but all the attached sources? I'd have to understand what the data problem is. So, Lori, is that it?
Yeah, Lori.
So, Lori, if you're out there, send me an email, ron@familysearch.org. Give me the PID, and then I'll go look at it and communicate back to you what's going on there and what you can do to fix it. Let's see. Steve, sometimes when blue source hints are given, I find that the source is already stated as attached and cannot be attached to the person showing those sources. How can I attach the source to the person when it won't let me attach it? All right. So I'd like to get your opinion on this one. This isn't one necessarily that that was properly reviewed with me. So I'm looking for your feedback. There was an idea that was floating around that if see, Family Tree, and it's before we started hints, Family Tree allowed same source to be attached to multiple people, and that's because the source could have been a census, and then you attach it to each member of the census. But with the source linker tool, we that team wasn't part of my group, but that team moved to enforce or suggest that a person in a record, there's only one of those in the tree, so you can only attach it to one person, which feels good. It's probably right, and we're going to find possible duplicates to merge anyway. But then recently they changed the source linker to still offer it as a source to another person, and tell you the other person that's already attached to. And you can still only attach it to one, but they're telling you that because they're trying to help you see whether or not that other person is a duplicate. So what you really ought to do when it gives you a hint and you see that somebody else is attached to it, you ought to go compare those two people and say, are these two people the same people? And if they are, maybe they need to be merged and combined together. If they're not the same person, then the source needs to be on one or the other. So let me know what you think about this capability and whether anybody's found any duplicates through that method or just been frustrated by it. And I'll take that as some feedback as we go look at that. You were off,
Well, I don't know why, but I'm missing parts of the questions. And so I was trying to turn. Well, here's one you can answer. Can we assume if the possible duplicate tool shows 0 matches that we do not need to run the search for duplicates again before reserving? Yep,
because it has a 0 on possible duplicates, and you push possible duplicates, it's going to tell you 0 too. So it's not.
And then an additional part says, will this update as we add information to the details page?
Yes, it could. There's poor matches and there's good matches, and if your particular person in the tree or some other person in the tree has very little data on it, then it won't get a high enough score to warrant a match. Or a match, possible duplicate match. And we do that because some people are not as diligent at looking at the two people to make sure that they're really the same person. When we give a match, a possible duplicate match, we think that it's pretty close in the 90s. You should still look at it, but some people don't. So we only do very high scores that we give that to. And if you have a 0, then we can't find any in the tree anywhere in the 1.2 something built-in, and so you're probably pretty safe. That doesn't mean there aren't any, but the ones that are out there may be so limited and so tiny, just a name and dead or something, that it wouldn't be close enough to match. Okay, so Rachel says, why does Ordinance Ready only give 5 baptisms? What if I want to take 10 names? The reason why these numbers, the value and how much we give as part of Ordinance Ready, is something that's controlled by the temple department, and the intent is to satisfy one trip to the temple. So that's why we give you those. So if you go to the temple, traditionally the temple likes you to do 5 baptism and confirmations. You, as a family, you can choose to do more, but when you show up, 5 is the preferred size. So we only give you 5 baptism and confirmation. When you want initiatories, we give you 10. Because you can do 10. If you do sealings, I think we give you up to 15, I think is what that one is. So that's why, because it constitutes a traditional single visit to the temple and what you do in that visit.
Typically can get done, huh?
Yeah, what's typically done in those times.
Okay. Well, here's a question from Audra, or I hope that's right. Is there as there is continued development with the Ordinance Ready through the app, is it possible to mark ordinances of specific people that we don't want to pull? I don't know if other people do this, but I reserve ordinances for people that I'm working on that may not need the work done. I do this to avoid them from being snagged via the great green temples, but I don't want to accidentally do the work until I am sure.
Nope.
Sorry.
We have no mechanism for you to mark somebody to say, don't make it show up in Ordinance Ready. So if it qualifies, it's going to show up to a relative. So your only way, just like the people crawling around the tree, walking around the tree could take it, you have to snag it first, otherwise it will get picked up.
Okay, here's one from Carol. It says, on your broadcast tonight, could you please talk about the new link to Ancestry Institution that is now on the person page right side? I logged in as a member and also as a non-member, and it shows up for both. When I click on it, I get a message saying I'm going to a partner site, but it does not take me there.
Yeah, that's a bug.
Then it freezes.
That was a bug. It's been fixed. So we were inappropriately showing Ancestry Institution everywhere when that link should only appear when you are sitting in a family history center or discovery center. Okay. So that's been fixed.
Here's one from Barbara. A friend asked me why when he signs into Family Tree and clicks on his brother's name to view relationships, it says he is my brother. But when he signs into Family Tree and clicks on my name, it shows that we are distant cousins. Yes, they have the same parents. Why wouldn't it show me as his brother instead of a cousin?
Yeah, there's a bug in the mobile device, and they're working on it. As a matter of fact, we went and did this, and this was on the last one I went to, like a week and a half ago.
Oh, the last one presentation?
Yeah, up in
Ogden.
I was up there, and we did How Are You Related?
Mm-hmm.
And, you were Jarrett's aunt or something like that.
Our son was, yeah.
Our son.
I was his aunt.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, mom was his aunt. So I reported that to the mobile team, and they're looking into it. I don't know if it's been fixed yet. I haven't paid attention.
Okay, here's one from Maureen. This is, what does principal mean when you are attaching census information? And she's principal as in Principal.
Okay, so when a record is, I didn't realize they put that in the new source linker. Apparently they've used that word there. When you have a record, the principal is the person that record is primarily about. So here's a good example. A birth certificate is about the person who was born. So they're the principal person that the record was created for.
I see. The
mother and the father are ancillary, but necessary, of course. Yeah. But the record is about the child. Marriage certificate. A marriage certificate, the record is about the husband and the wife, right? The couple, or the couple. And the parents of the couples is sort of ancillary and secondary information. So in a census, I believe it's about the principal, I believe, would be the father and mother, I would think. I haven't paid attention to that.
Here's one.
So that's what the principal is it's who is considered the head or the reason for the record.
This is also from Maureen. It says, are there any suggestions as to correct the black filled-in triangle when we review and compare a hint? Like usually you can just compare and attach, but sometimes it is black and sometimes it ends up being a duplicate, but many times not so. I would suppose that's not a good idea to detach. Hope this makes sense.
Black triangle. I don't know if I've seen the black triangle personally. Black filled in triangle when reviewing and comparing the hint. I don't think I've seen that. I haven't had a lot of hints yet. Remember, the tanners are animals. So when the source gets out there, I mean, they're gone. They're gone in minutes, days, and I can't get out there fast enough to find one. So somebody, so write that one down. What's a black triangle on source linker? Dave Tanner. I wonder why when I look at that's my brother, my father's record, it shows his death date. When I look at my grandfather and it lists my dad as a child, it shows him as still alive. That's probably because you have a living copy, Dave, in your private area that you need to kill. So if you when a member dies, so when you log in, and if you're a member, we create your living and your dead, or we link you up to the dead that's already there. And so for my case, when I logged in first time to Family Tree, it created Cherie, it created my kids, it created my father and my mother who were alive at the time, and then it hooked them to my deceased grandparents. When my father died, it doesn't go and change the living father that I have in my private area because we just haven't done that capability. But it makes a new person in the dead area based on membership record. So if you're going to Dave, if you're going to Grandpa, you'll see, because it's you'll see the dead one and you'll see the living one. You should see both of them. So you need to mark your version of dead, and merge them together. Larry can help you out because I know she's done it because she did it with Lynette. So I saw her doing it with Lynette, so she can help you out there. Visit with your local in-house consultant.
Oh, I lost the thing.
You saved it as a bookmark.
Oh.
So go back to your bookmarks. There you go. That's why I had you bookmark it.
Smart man.
All right, Amy, I found, everyone's commenting that they found lots of duplicates with this already attached stuff. So that it seems to be helping. Yeah, she says that no possible, that doesn't mean it's ready. Of course, if there's minimal data on it, it's hard for it to find duplicates. And Judy, no. Judy says, are you saying that there are 6 persons named in one census that only one of those persons can have that source attached to them? No, that source can be attached to every person in the census. But the way the source linker works is it works on one person at a time. So when you did a search or we had a hint, and let's say you're sitting on John's person page, and it's going to match John. So John is going to be the principal for you to link together, but it's not going to have you link. You can link his parents in there in the census because it brings up the whole family. So you should attach it to every person in the family. It's just that the person that's the principal is the one that the hint was against that you clicked on. It's also hinting on the mother, and it's also hinting on the father's page, and it's also hinting on all the siblings' pages as well. It's just that when you go in, since your focus was that person in the census, it shows you that person first. Once you connect those, then it lines up the family and helps you connect to the rest of the family. Once it's been connected to everybody in the family, then that hint goes away on all of those people. So you connect them to everybody.
Here's a question from Amanda.
Uh-huh.
This is, can you speak to the theory of why, when using the view relationship feature, sometimes both parents' names appear at the top and sometimes only one parent appears? I understand that if the person is not a descendant of the entire couple, but I've seen instances where both are listed as biological parents to both siblings and that are listed next and one parent doesn't show. Does that mean one parent's still alive?
No, I think it goes through that parent up to higher up before it goes down. That's what I think is the reason why. We only show the 2 parents at the very top of the thing. So I suspect that it doesn't show the second parents because it's going through that one into a parent of that person.
This is from Tracy. It says, is there a limit to the number of people that can be watched for changes?
Yes, there is. I think we're at 4,000. We might be 4,500, I think. I think it's 4,000. Somebody out there have to let me know. I don't have nearly that many, but you'll know because you can't watch anymore. Tells you you're over the limit. All right. Somebody else asked today about the temple resolution list and the expiration date over on the right, and we talked about that earlier, but we'll repeat it for those who are joining. The The expiration date is intended to show things that will automatically be released. The 2-year reservation stuff is not prepared to show the date, so you won't see that on the right, so you don't see anything. Basically, you just see the reserve date. That it shouldn't be that way. I would have expected it to be all blank, so I'm going to go take that back and talk to them about that. The only expirations that are automated right now are 90-day expirations that come from Ordinance Ready when you're pulling something off the temple list and putting it on your list. Then you'll see a 90-day expiration date. And it will expire automatically. That day, the 90th day will go through, and then that evening, I think, when that day is done, we go and we share it to the temple is what we do. And then the next question was, tell me when the new temple ordinance finder will be available on computers. It shipped today. Oh no, it shipped yesterday. It shipped yesterday. So if you go out to your temple, if you go to temple, there's a new tab over on the side called Ordinance Ready. You can go in there and you can click it and do the same thing that the tablet or the mobile phone does. Love all the new features over the past weeks listening in Australia. Welcome from Australia.
Here's a question.
Okay.
This is from Amanda. It says, is there any chance that Family Tree might ever be able to tell me how many direct ancestors I have on the tree?
Nope.
How many blood relations?
No.
How many of these don't have sources? Death dates or similar numbers?
You can do descendancy, but descendants.
She just wants to know.
How many descendants?
Quantities, yeah.
People have asked that. We can only go down through the dead. We can't show you any living. So there's no way for us. We're not going to count those to tell you how many living are out there. I don't know.
I think this is a question that's already been.
The black triangle means that sources is linked to someone else. So it should also have a message next to it that says sources linked already. So I know what the black triangle is. Thank you very much, Jen, for that. Yeah, black triangle, which means that you have that source is attached to somebody else.
This one, I think maybe it sounds like you've answered it before, but it's from Thomas. It says, when you mention plans to limit the number of relatives a person can gather in their temple tab, is that a limit on their reserved list or a limit on the number of relatives we will be able to share to the general temple file?
Oh, well, when we have a limit, it will be the limit of reservations that you can have on your reservation list. There is no limit to the number of people that you can share to the temple. And when you share those reservations to the temple, they do not count against the limit. So what we're talking about is reservations that are sitting on your list. We're going to limit the number of those you have. But if you share, like I say, then that one doesn't count against you. Okay, I think we made up our 5 minutes for being late. I'm going to answer Lee's last question, and I think we're done.
Okay.
You can mark her off. Ron, is there any update on being able to attach short videos to record memories? Assume size format would be strict, understand. Okay, no, we continue to fight this one every month. We go running around and trying different systems that claim they can find inappropriate videos and stuff like that, but just haven't found one. The reason why we don't allow updating of videos is because every memory, except for recordings, we don't do this for. But recordings, people can report abuse. The problem is that videos can have some nasty stuff in it, and we haven't found an efficient way to detect that a video has inappropriate content without paying somebody to sit and watch the video. Now, there's companies that are willing to sit and watch the video, just like there's companies that we're working with that review all the photos that you send in to make sure that they're appropriate. But it's just too cost prohibitive. We have to pay them too much money to watch the video. They have to sit and watch a 10-minute video or a 5-minute video where in 5 minutes they can do 500 pictures. They'll do one video. Yeah. So it's just too cost prohibitive at this time. If you have a video, what people have been doing is putting their video on a Google Drive or Dropbox or something, and then putting a a link to it over on the person to say, here's a video of this person. And that, that's off our site. So I think we announced that you're leaving our site. We're not responsible for, what goes on outside of our site. But the church's site, FamilySearch.org, is, one of our mandates is not to put inappropriate material on the site. So,
Yes.
So we have to keep that way. Hey, it's been great. Boy, this time went fast.
It did.
My eyeballs are burning. I was tired. I got up early.
I'm tired.
Sheree was off to a retreat. She pooped too much partying.
Yes. But I had fun. Lots and lots of fun.
Yeah. But I appreciate you coming and joining us this evening. It's been a joy.
Thanksgiving.
And next week is Thanksgiving. So I hope you have a great time with your family or friends, or just however you celebrate Thanksgiving.
Be safe and have fun.
Okay, so Maureen, I'll do one last one here. It says, so where else should we try to find why is linked to the same person? I think if it tells you which person, what I do is I do a control click on that person, or open this person box and go over to that person page and check it out and see the reason they attached it, and go review that person against the record, see if it makes sense. If it was a bad attach, then you can detach it and go put it on your person.
Sounds good.
And that's what I do. Hey, thanks very much for all your time. I hope this has been useful and valuable. As always, we'll put this up on YouTube, and also encourage you, if you got more questions, just to keep filling out the form. It's available all the time. We're going to be off for Thanksgiving, and we won't see you till
we get to
in
go
December.
Play with grandbabies.
Yeah, and we're going to go visit some grandbabies, and we'll see you the next time we have it. We'll be announcing out there soon the dates that we'll have in November for that. Or December, excuse me. All right, thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Let's click that button there. I'm supposed to click the button. I have to remind myself to click the button before we say goodbye. So see, bye, like that.